Lord, to whom can we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and know that you are the Holy One of God. In the name of the Holy One of God. So would you not say it is? It's hard enough. It's hard enough to be Christian and to try to fathom the nature of Christianity. It's hard enough to live in a world which is difficult as this world is. Espousing of a Christian voice in the world, being for the world a marker of where the presence of Jesus is to be and is hard enough to be all of that when we can't see Jesus. But would not have it been easier if you are walking in the presence of Jesus of Nazareth? Would it not have been easier, do you think, to fathom what it is Jesus is trying to say? How many times have you in your lives wanted to go to maybe not to Jesus, someone else that has passed, and go, I really want to talk to you about that? I think about Abraham Lincoln. I'd love to have coffee with Abraham Lincoln. I would love to have coffee with some of the people in the world. I'd actually like to sit down with that hard-headed and not necessarily polite all the time Ludwig van Beethoven. He'd have to speak English. I don't speak German. But I'd love to sit and have coffee with him, or Mozart. Wouldn't it be fun to play with Mozart? And then you could say, well, what did you mean when you said this? What did you mean when you said this? And here we have, in just these few words, we have described the nature of conflict. We have the nature of the struggle that was going on at the end of the first century between what we will call mainstream of Judaic faith, the mainstream church, and that radical sect of the church called Judaic Christianity or Messianic Judaism. Well, there's your big word for the day. Messianic Judaism. This is it. This is the struggle. Jesus says, this is the way forward. What I am and who I am here to represent on the face of this earth is a radical shift in the understanding of the nature of our relationship with God and humankind. Do you believe that? And the other people said, this isn't what I bargained for. Where else do we actually have the words, his disciples walked away from him? We're not talking about folks that come here in the summertime and visit us and say, this is a nice church, but it doesn't fit. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about those occasions when somebody in this congregation steps on your toes for whatever reason and you need to go somewhere else. We're not talking about that. That's as significant as that actually is, and as important as that actually is in our world of being in relationship with each other. That's small change when you talk about living and walking with this person, Jesus Christ, and turning your back on him. That's significant. The whole first century of Judaism was marked by the nature of the sects, S-E-C-T-S. The sects. I have a natural lisp, and those words are sometimes hard for me to come out with. Those difference, those viewpoints, those Baptists, Methodists, Episcopalians, Presbyterians, Reformed Church of America, Christian Reformed Church, keep on going, Lutherans, Missouri Synod Lutherans, of Judaism, those denominational pieces, people who go, I'm going to that synagogue because that's a nice place, they feed me, and I have an affinity with them. That's the nature of Judaism at the birth of Jesus Christ. And it got more and more radicalized as time went on. This whole thing about Messianic Judaism has to do with the fact that the people in Judaism were saying that at some point Messiah will come. And when Messiah comes, all nations will stream to Judaism. All nations will stream to Judaism. And when you use that terminology, all nations, you're not talking about Judaism, the Jewish people streaming to Judaism. You're talking about the nations of Gentiles streaming to Judaism. So that the welcoming force and power of a messianic understanding is that all would be welcome under this wonderful new world in which the valleys would be lifted up and the mountains would be being made plain and justice would rule on the earth. When we have, I read this gospel, this Old Testament of 1 Kings, and Solomon is standing there avowing to the world the nature of the covenants. The nature of the covenant. We will have a king on this throne for as long as the people will follow the teachings of God and adhere to the laws of God. And Solomon himself was the cause of the destruction of the nations. In this instance, the nation-state of Israel and Judaism. Solomon himself, who is vowing these words, he is the reason that Israel and Judah split and became two different countries. He is the reason for that, and there he is saying, this is what it's about. This is the nature of covenant. And Paul was never a Christian. He was always a Jew. He was always a Jew who espoused Christianity within the context of Judaism. He never came down into Holy Trinity Church and let me sprinkle water on his head. Or anybody in those days that would do that. It wasn't like that. We all understand that, don't we, my brothers and sisters? We all understand that. We all know. Here we are as Christians 2,000 years later. We do not have standing before us this wonderful individual given to us as a human being, made incarnate by God. We do not have Jesus standing before us who can clarify for us. But Jesus, what did you mean by that? This love your neighbor thing, or love each other as you would have us, as you love us. What does that actually mean? What does it mean to be a follower of you? And what is it going to cost us? You see, that's a question that sometimes comes up, but it doesn't come up in the 21st century. We talk about it in stewardship terms. What's it going to cost me this year to keep that guy standing up there? Or the paint on the walls, or the grass cut. What's that going to cost me this year? Church is always asking for, and fill in the blank. But what does it in fact cost you to shape the way you believe and understand of your relationship with God? What does it cost you? Because the people that did not turn and walk away from Jesus Christ were not among those individuals that were persecuted by the early Jewish communities and brought before the Roman emperors because they were not behaving themselves. And the historian Suetonius says, well, you know, the emperor says, that's your stuff. Don't be bringing your intra-faith issues to me. Don't be bringing that to me. Settle it among yourselves. What does it mean for us in the 21st century to be Christian? Gentile Christians. And how does it matter to us? And what difference does it make to the world outside? Here we have an example of people who looked Jesus in the face and said, can't do that. As we re-enter into what I will call the more busy period of our lives here at this church, we have some focusing to do. As a clergy person, many of you know, I've been looking inside of my own self to see what kinds of things are alive and well in there, and what kinds of things need healing in there, and what kinds of spiritual leading and guidances and places and things are active inside of me. How is it that I'm going to live out the rest of my life as a child of God? We have a little bit of less pressure now. And when we start together again in our quote-unquote busy season in September, let us reflect on what it means to be a part of a community, what it means to be a Christian, how it affects you, and how you, in the scheme of things, affects God. What may drive you away, and what calls you to the Messiah. What invites you to stream towards the living and loving God. We need to do that from time to time, and that time is now.